Hello and welcome to another IFW News Roundup. I'm Damien Brett, IFW's Chief Reporter, and joining me this week I've got Katarina Kerr, IFW's reporter, and she's going to be running you through the topmost read stories of the week from the IFW website in a minute. But before she does that, I'm going to talk about my story pick of the week, and also before I do that, I think I owe everyone an apology. Well, not just me actually, but we all owe everyone an apology at IFW, because this is the first time we've done IFW radio for a few weeks. Trying to think of a really good excuse, but I can't. Hang on, actually, I know what our excuse is. Or this is what I'm going to say anyway. It's what I'm blaming it on, I should say. Kizzy Nkwacha, who's obviously the editor of IFW, he edits all the radio stuff at home, as I've told regular listeners in the past, on his Saturday mornings, and he reckons his computer has been damaged and he had to take it away for repair or something along those lines. So basically what I'm trying to say is it's Kizzy's fault. So yeah, blame him, not me or Kat. Right, anyway, that's enough of me apologising. So every week I pick out a story that I've seen that's caught my eye, and I'll just talk through it and explain why I think it's such a big story. And this week it's not so much a hard-hitting breaking news story as such a development or a continued development of an idea that's been knocking around for a while, and that's the consultant, the shipping industry consultant Drury, has decided to back people who suggest that linking rates in shipping line contracts to a container rate indices could provide an answer to the problem of pricing instability. It couldn't come at a more suitable time, because container rates have continued to drop since I can't remember when, but certainly for most of this year, and they're at a pretty low level now. I think just over $1,000 per TEU on the Asia-Europe trade, so getting pretty low. Now, everyone's argued that for the shipping industry or shipping line industry to stay stable, which is obviously vital to freight forwarders and shippers, rates need to be stable, because at the moment we have the problem where if rates decline, shipping lines remove capacity because they want to improve the supply and demand situation. But the problem that has is if volumes suddenly increase or do something unexpected, suddenly there's not enough capacity, not enough vessels to serve the demand, which can create problems with delays and extra costs for shippers and freight forwarders getting it in the net for their customers. So Drury and Maersk Line have in the past suggested that long-term contracts could stabilise pricing and therefore the industry. But critics of long-term contracts argue that it's artificial to kind of fix the contract rates for 2 years, and that also the pricing on contract could become out of sync with pricing on the spot market, which obviously varies week to week and over a 2-year period could go one way and then the other way. There are also concerns that one of the contract parties may force the other to renegotiate terms and prices midway through, which would negate the point of signing a long-term contract in the first place. So the solution to the problem with long-term contracts, Drury suggests, is that the prices should be fixed to an independent index to suggest when the rates in the long-term contract should be reviewed by shippers and shipping lines. So what that basically means is that if the price for contract goes up above or below a certain pre-agreed percentage, then the shipping lines and the shippers get together and they renegotiate the rates. Now, for that to happen, there are a few things that need to take place. Firstly, the shippers and the carriers need to agree that the price would be subject to a minimum and maximum limit over the 2-year period. So that means although the rates will be flexible, they won't be completely flexible. Secondly, that the freight rate would need to be indexed to an independent pricing benchmark. The Shanghai Containerized Freight Index has been one name or possible index that's been suggested. And thirdly, the two participants would need to agree that price revisions would only be triggered if the benchmark rose or fell over a predetermined threshold. So Drewry isn't the first to suggest linking rates to a price index. In January, the container ship company, which currently only operates on the Trans-Pacific trade, told IFW it was considering linking its contracts to container rate indices. So if they do decide to do that, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. It could be rolled out across the rest of the trade. TCC, the container ship company, said that it hoped that this would stop shipping lines finding ways to cancel contracts if market prices suddenly increased, and shippers from doing the same if prices fell. Lars Jensen, who's TCC's marketing director, said there have been a few conversations with customers about this, and they'd had a very positive response. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Right, anyway, that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over now to Kat, who is going to tell you what the top 5 most read stories of the week are, which is obviously the highlight of everyone's week, everyone's working week. And yeah, so goodbye from me, and I apologise again for there not being an IFW for a couple of weeks. Take care and speak to you next week. Kat, over to you.
Thanks, Damien. Now I'm going to go on to the top 5 most read stories of the week. Starting with the 5th most read story of the week with 870 views. It's Indian police arrest 10 in customs bribery probe. India's Central Bureau of Investigation has uncovered an interstate corruption racket that it claims implicates at least 7 customs officials. These officials have been arrested and accused of taking bribes from a domestic freight forwarder in return for clearing its import and export consignments in the state of Gujarat. The CBI conducted raids on homes and offices in several districts of Gujarat, but the officials said that charges of bribery have been registered against 7 officials, including superintendents and inspectors, but 10 were arrested. He said an inspector of customs in Surat tried to burn a huge amount of cash before allowing the CBI team to enter his residence during the search, as a deep-rooted corruption network exists in Gujarat, wherein some custom house agents and a few individuals regularly pay bribes to officials. The 4th most read story of the week, with 873 views, is freight rate out of Asia hits 16-month low. According to the Shanghai Containerized Freight Index, rates on the 4 main global trade routes declined again last week, sinking to a 16-month low, and will continue to weaken until the peak season begins in July. Rates from Shanghai to Europe fell $68 to $1,076 per TEU at the end of last week, compared with the week before, while rates to the Mediterranean declined by $40 to $1,042 per TEU. Rates on services from Shanghai to the US West Coast also slumped, $83 to $1,654 per FEU, and to the East Coast by $94 to $2,862 per FEU. Analyst AXS Alphaliner said that the current forward rates suggest that average freight rates will be 30% lower on Far East Europe trades and 15% lower on the Trans-Pacific this year compared to last. It's also said that the planned general rate increases on the Far East Europe trade in April are expected to have only a moderate impact, and carriers will have to wait until the peak season is in full swing in July before seeing any significant rate recovery. So the 3rd most read story of the week, with 931 views, is Asia-Europe carriers at the crossroads. This story uncovers some Drewry Maritime Research, where Drewry Maritime Research Unmasking Freight Rates report predicts that rates will decline in 2011 because of overcapacity, whatever strategies carriers adopt to try and increase them. However, shipping lines may have more success in increasing rates in the years to come if they're not tempted into a new round of vessel ordering. It says Maersk Line's recent order of 10 18,000 TEU vessels could act as a catalyst for other vessel orders, which will only add further to the oversupply scenario. Neil Decker, co-author of the report, said that carriers are currently at a crossroads where they seem to be wavering from the tactics that served them so well in 2010 and showing signs of returning to the old habits that almost bankrupted some of them. The strategy that carriers decided upon now will have to carriers decide upon now will have big implications for carriers' profits and in turn shippers' costs over the next few years. Okay, and that brings us on to the second most read story of the week, with 1,247 views, and surprisingly enough, it's about Japan. Shipping lines suspend calls to worst hit Japanese ports. Shipping line, at the time of writing this article, shipping line services to Japan's ports worst hit by the recent disaster have been suspended, while other major terminals continue to suffer from congestion. Maersk Line said services to and from Sendai, Hachinohe and Onohama have been suspended following the earthquake and subsequent tsunami that hit the country on Friday. And it warned that services to the ports of Tokyo and Yokohama could be delayed because of congestion caused by their closure on Friday and Saturday. OOCL said its services to all Japanese ports, except Sendai, Hitachinaka and Kashima, were returning to normal. Bookings to those three ports would be suspended until further notice, it said. All cargo on its way to the affected areas will be discharged at the ports of Tokyo or Yokohama until the situation becomes more stable, it's told its customers. While Hapag-Lloyd said its staff and offices, major vendor facilities and cargo operations were largely unaffected, but bookings had been suspended for the northeastern ports that were affected by the tsunami. At this point, they don't expect any vessel diversions. However, scheduled delays are possible and they will keep their customers informed. CMA CGM said its services were not affected, but vessels would avoid the northeast of Japan. And this brings us on to the most read story of the week, which is related to the Japanese ports as it is about Japan. With 1,634 views, it's Japan's southern ports take the strain. Operations at most of Japan's ports south of Tokyo have returned to business as usual, following the devastating 8.9 magnitude earthquake that triggered a tsunami on the 11th of March. Japan's Prime Minister, Naoto Kan, said that the country was facing its worst crisis since the Second World War. The northeast coastal ports of Hachinohe, Sendai, Ishinomaki and Onohama are said to have suffered so much damage that they're not expected to return to operation for months or possibly years. The ports of Kashima and Hitachinaka were only partially damaged and could be back online in a few weeks. However, Tokyo and all ports south of the capital are operating normally, but due to the backlog of vessels, delays in cargo handling are expected. And that concludes the top 5 stories of the week. If you want to get in touch with IFW in any way, you can tweet us or follow us on Twitter. You just do twitter.com/IFWnet, or you can join in discussions on Facebook and LinkedIn. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/newsIFW, and our LinkedIn group you can just search for IFW Cargo.